Good evening. You know, it's funny. I was just about to come on and I was getting ready. I grabbed my book. I was going to flip and see what I was going to say first. And I remembered when I originally started up the channel for the second time now, a little while back now. I guess it's been a couple months. Luana, how you doing? And I wasn't 100% sure like how I was going to go about it this time around. I'm getting some static on my speaker. I've been having a lot of technical issues today, which is funny because here we are again. So I'm just going to kill that and use a different speaker. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So I had considered doing a channel for a long time because I've done stuff in a group setting, one-on-one, small groups, seminar type things, trade show type stuff. And I've always had the compulsion to share whenever I feel like I have a contribution to make, something that I've discovered or something that I've been able to work through, and I feel that I can communicate in a manner that can help other people. And whenever I feel like I can do that, I have this compulsion. And so it was sort of obvious to go to YouTube or something else to, you know, kind of put it out there, and then it stays as a static thing that can be looked at in the future. But there's also the idea of the live stream, the energy of that, right? And I really love the energy of that, and sort of everything that comes along with the conversation. So this time around, when I decided to start up the channel, I wasn't 100% sure how to go about it. Do I want to do it as purely educational? Do I want to do it as purely reader? Do I want to do static videos or live streaming and so forth? And so I played around in the beginning by doing a bunch of different readings, about 4 a day that I put out for quite some time. And then I would do sign readings and all this stuff. And, you know, as I was going through that and deciding how to present it, I just remember it's so silly. It's so cheese. And I am, just to be clear, I'm totally okay with cheese. I have no fear, and I have no shame, right? And so cheese isn't a problem for me. But I was deciding how am I going to go about this, right? I wanted it to be sort of fun. And there was a couple of different readings. I had one where I was doing readings for pets. It was a general one to kind of put it out there, and if anybody was interested, and they would contact me for a pet reading or something. And I had one that was related to connections, and it's a mind, body, soul spread that I've developed, and it's really good as like a love reading or like a connections reading, that type of thing. And I just remember when I first kind of was thinking about how I'm going to present it. I almost, I actually did it for a reading or two. I kind of, it's so cheese. I kind of played a character like, oh, hi there. It's so bad looking back. I was just flipping through old videos and I was like, I can't believe I did that. I'm leaving it up though. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful little piece of history. But I see you've come to look into the matters of love. Well, you've come to the right place. It's so bad. I mean, it almost reminds me of the wizard from The Wizard of Oz with his wagon of snake oil, you know? It felt so dirty. And watching it, it was like, oh my God, that's not me. What am I doing? And thankfully, nobody cared. The videos got very few views. Like, it just wasn't. It wasn't correct, right? And so I'm okay with the fact that it wasn't doing well, because really, it wasn't correct. It was really a dry run, a sketch of what do I do, how am I going to go about this, and what I decided to do instead was to do readings and allow the channel to grow organically from there, because I knew that. During the process of the readings, I'm going to be in a position of putting myself out there, because very much in the same way that a piece of art shows you a side of the artist, so does reading somebody's tarot. The approach that the reader takes, the approach to the knowledge, the approach to the the authenticity of the reading is obvious to the person being read, right? I mean, you can kind of tell, where somebody's heart is, and where they are with respect to the work, with respect to you. And so I figured, let's just put that out there and then allow this to grow organically. And obviously it's changed a lot since then. And I do plan on allowing it to continue to change and grow, and to never call it a single thing. I speak all the time about die daily, which gives us the opportunity to transform and to rebuild and to become something new and to create, which is what we're doing anyway, right? But the same thing can go for other aspects of your life. And so, I want to apply that same truth to the channel and to the community and to what we're trying to do, sort of as a collective here, and how that can manifest. And I think one of the best ways to allow that is to, give it freedom. Right? There's a couple of very cool things I bumped into today, which I wanted to share. I think you guys are going to find some of it pretty fun. One of them is related to the sigil stuff. A couple of streams back when I started talking about just the whole idea of Sigil Magick, and we looked at Spar and his work and his art. And I was looking for this thing for days before and until today, that stream. This piece right here, which I'm going to share, it's a pendant, and it's a sigil. And I didn't know what it was for the longest time. It took me years to discover what it was. And it's funny how that all came about. I belong to a bunch of groups online where I answer questions and stuff. And I have a knack for symbolism. And I went on a couple of the boards actually that I answer questions on, because I had no idea, and I thought, well, maybe somebody there will know, and nobody knew. I got all kinds of different suggestions about what this symbol was. Okay, let me see if I can. Let's put it against black. Okay, isn't that pretty? First of all, it really is something. I don't know, the quality about it. It's hard to pinpoint how it makes me feel. But it's just a beautiful symbol, right? Wouldn't you say? Let's catch up on the chat real quick. Mama's in the house. Hey, Mama. Hey, kitten. How's it going? So I'm just going to put it up here and ask if anybody has any ideas what you think this is a sigil for. Now, I want to be clear. This specifically is a certain kind of sigil. It uses a certain kind of system. This is not done by... Oh, okay. Well, before you do, like my video. You're not allowed to switch your profile until you like my video. It's a certain type of sigil that uses a certain technique. This is not drawn on a like, for instance, a petal, like we've done with the Hebrew stuff. This is a different system. And it took me years and years of looking at this thing. I asked a bunch of people about it, and it's just so funny. When it finally dawned on me, I was like, there's no way it can be what I think that it might be. But if it is, that's awesome. And so I go online, and I type in a couple of words on Google, and bam, there it is. And and the person actually drew a diagram and all, and I was like, it just came down to knowing what words to ask. What does this symbol mean? It was too general, right? But so it was really, really interesting. And so, again, I'll put it up one more time, and then I'm going to leave it aside for later so you guys can decide what you think it means. No screenshotting and Googling. And when I found out what it meant, it was just like, it's the most powerful magic possible. This symbol, this little piece of gold, this little piece of, 14 karat gold, it has virtually no value in the real world. It is kind of beautiful that it is real gold, though. But more appropriate than that is what it means. The symbolism behind this beautiful emblem is the most powerful magic in the world. Literally. That's not a figurative statement. That's the truth told openly. And when you know this story, the secret, I'm so happy I found it. I was looking for something else, which I did not find. But I found this. I've been looking for a long time. And so if you guys have any ideas what you think this symbol means, let me know, and we'll get to it a little bit later. I haven't decided what to do with it yet. Like, if I'm going to make it into a necklace, I would like to make it into maybe a ring, and like kind of bent a little bit, and maybe put onto a ring, or maybe put on top of here. Although this is a piece of garbage metal that turns my finger blue. I just like the fact that it's basically the 4 elements. It's a reminder of the 4 elements to me. So I thought about making it into a ring, but anyway, that said, I bumped into a couple of other things. I volunteer every year for Bible camp. It's basically a week-long thing where we just do this free thing at the church for kids. They come by, we just have a blast, we play in the water, and we do all kinds of fun stuff. At the end, typically the volunteers get a little gift from the church as a thank you, right? And so this was in my little gift basket this August. And I thought it'd be cute just to kind of pull some stuff out here. Does it have anything to do with anchor or peace? It brings peace, but no. But it does bring peace. Like a sealing ring. Very much. Perhaps it could be used as one. Yes. And this is exactly the path I was on. This is exactly the path I was on. I was like, And I'm studying it, right? I'm studying the angles. And like, here's the thing that got me. This one got me. It's tiny. This thing's tiny. It's the size of like a dime. It's the size of a dime. It's very small. There's the, let me grab. So just to be clear here, what we're looking at, we have a circle on the outside, and then a square, and the square is perfect. There's a line going down the middle of the square. And then you have what appears to be a triangle with basically a tetrahedron. And then, however, and that's all beautiful, and that's all very symmetrical. But then there's this one line sticking out right there. That's off. Okay, see that one line right there? What is that, right? And that's kind of tantamount to what we're looking at here. And just to be clear, I know that I speak in hyperbole at times, but this is the most powerful magic. This is the most powerful talisman I've ever held and had in my possession. And I've been around. So that's not that's a bold statement, but it's true. And you'll see what I mean when I reveal it. It really is something. And here's the beauty of it, is that you can make one of these very easily with a marker and a piece of paper. You could easily make this with some wire. You could easily make this with any number of different methods that could be worn. I think it's a beautiful tattoo. I haven't gotten a tattoo yet. I haven't decided what's the one, what's the symbol, right? It might be that one. So this little gift here, they're called prayer cards, right? And this is a little box. There's 20 cards in here. Okay. I thought it was a really, really cute gift. Especially for somebody like me, if you consider what my secret life as a hermetic occultist, right? But anyway, that said, it's just great that these 20 little cards of inspiration that are based on prayers, and I thought it would be a nice exercise to read them, and or some of them, and kind of see, like, is the story in there? Or do we have to fish for it? Lilith, maybe. Maybe. Might be Lilith. Maybe. Not Lilith, but maybe. There's two trinities, right? The Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And then there was Adam, Eve, and Lilith. But that said, so the question is, I won't go there. We'll talk about it when I leave. But that said, though, let's take a look. It might be fun just to kind of see if we have any interesting correlations to the one truth, right? Let's find out. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge. Now, this is interesting. I was looking at this one before, and I don't want to stretch. That's the point, right? If it's not apparent, put it aside, look at it later. And the first time I looked at it, what I thought about was the idea of the divine order of the wand, cup, sword, pentacle, and then the top being the wand, sword, cup, pentacle of the higher world, and the idea that the pentacles really ultimately mean that they're always in unison. They're never apart, right? It's more appropriate to see them as a connected, singular thing. The divine wand and profane wand are the same thing. The divine pentacle and profane pentacle are the same thing. Essentially, we are the body of God. The body of God is your body. It's physical reality, all of physical reality, but that includes your body. And so it's first the seat of your soul from the perspective of us down here, right? But it's also the place in which the soul resides. It's like it's basically the soul and the place that the soul lives at the same time. And so you could say here, my God is my rock is true. That's literally a true statement. I mean, and the wood and the book and the laptop and you and me and the sound and the meaning behind the words and none of those things. In whom I take refuge. And, also that depends upon which side of that you're on. Are you the inhaler or the exhaler? Don't forget the universe was spoken into existence, but it didn't start with an exhale. It didn't start with God speaking. It spoke with she breathing in. And that forced God to exhale the word. So, anyways. May mercy, peace, and love be multiplied to you. Interesting wording. Jude 1:2. Let's read that again. May mercy, peace, and love be multiplied to you. Yep, I see the cup. Thank you for saying that. Oh my gosh, I'm going to never unsee that. There's also a pentacle. There's also a wand. Where's the sword? Yep. Okay, I have a clue. I'll give you a clue. Let's see who can Google the fastest. There's my top 5 music. Everyone has their favorite, right? My top 5, my number 1 favorite band, not individual musician or classical artist or anything like that, but my number 1 favorite band is a band called Dream Theater. They're a progressive rock band that started in the late 80s. They're still going. They are just amazing. But anyway, long story short, that's the clue. If you look at their logo, that may give you a little bit of a clue as to what the direction your brain should be going. But that's cool that it does look like a cup, and I'll never unsee that. That's so awesome that you pointed that out, because I've been very I mean, I thought it was beautiful to begin with, but once I recognized what it was, once it finally dawned on me, and it took years to do that, it became very, very important to me. And that said, to now know that there's a cup in there is just, yeah, that's just something else. I love that. Anyway, so thank you for that. So interesting. May mercy, peace, and love be multiplied to you. I mean, you have mercy, peace, and love are three qualities, right? Mercy, peace, and love. This is the cup. This is the sword being laid down. But so is this is really the sword being laid down. I don't know. Am I stretching? What we could do too is to do the Gematria on the, I will heal my people and will let them enjoy abundant peace and security. That's very nice. Clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Good advice. Let's just do a couple more here. Oh, we have a Song of Solomon. A little birdie told me to read the Song of Solomon and look at it through the eyes of the one truth. And so I'm going to do that. I haven't done it yet, but and that particular birdie is one that I trust. And that said, Song of Solomon 4:7. Let's find out. I didn't know this was in here, so this is going to be cool to experience it together. You are altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the one, the only. Shushu is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Shushu is in the house. We can begin. Sit down, relax. There it is. You are altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. And now what's interesting about the Song of Solomon is that it's a very erotic in nature, which is very atypical compared to the other stuff of Solomon. You know, there's a few places in the at least the Judeo-Christian doctrine where women aren't looked down on. They aren't slighted in the circumstance. And the Song of Solomon is exactly that, right? It's the object of his desire. But when you consider that, and you look at it from the respect of the truth, you recognize who he is speaking to and who's speaking. You are altogether beautiful, my darling. There is no flaw in you. I'm leaving that one out. And here's what on the back. That's it. You know, it's kind of pretty with the, looks like acrylic. Like an acrylic rose pattern. I like the color. Blues and pinks. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. Oh. Okay. Okay, yeah. I don't know about you, but that just smacked me in the face. 7 and 7 is 14, and just read that statement. Like, come on. That's great. Yep. Right, that's what I'm talking about, the Majesty symbol. That's it. Well, Majesty was the name of their original band. That's where Yetzi Jam comes from. It's Majesty backwards. And they clearly have an occult vibe in there. I mean, I don't have any proof for that, but it's obvious. So what the Majesty symbol is a collection of letters that are stuck together. And their logo is the word Dream Theater, you know, stuck together in a bunch of, and so it creates this kind of like iconic. Okay, so that's the clue. The clue is the Dream Theater logo. When Dream and Day Unite was their first album as the band Dream Theater. Not their best, but it is pretty awesome. And Yetzi Jam is great. So now that we're looking at it with respect, that those are just English letters. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on letters, right? And now that's a word in there. It's actually 3 words. 3 very important words. 3 words that when we hear makes our heart skip, and when we say and mean. I said it many, many times in my life, but I remember the first time that I said it, that there was absolutely 0 doubt in the world that I meant it. And it was when I spoke those words to my daughter for the first time, when she was about 30 seconds old. I'm actually getting emotional thinking about it. It was a beautiful moment. But that said, though, those are just the series of letters that make up 3 words. And when you consider the idea of what we're talking about here, with respect to the ability to embody and the ability to know, that's 1 word. Yep, kitten. We got one of the words. We understand who's speaking. And we understand what it means to listen and what it means to speak. And when we embody this, we can understand something very special. And with respect to a symbol, it's and so there's an implication here. Love implies the concept, the abstract. It's so hard to pin down what that word means that some cultures have dozens, multiple dozens of words for that concept. However, the 3 words, I love you, is spoken, is communicated. It is designed to be communicated. Those words imply 1 speaking to 2 with the intent of being heard. And when it's spoken truly, it is the formula for creation. And when heard honestly, is ecstasy. It's full knowledge of yourself. So yeah, powerful stuff, right? And the symbol is just it's so beautiful. I mean, look how simple. Now that we know what it is, let's take a look at it again. And just consider it. Do I have a matte black? This is close, I guess. Isn't that something? The I is down the middle. The L is basically the I plus the line to the right underneath it to make the L. They're all capital. An O, the V, the E, which is that little crick there. That's what the E is. That's the E, right? The Y, which is the cup. Luana. O. And the U was represented as starting at the top of the square and then continuing through the bottom of the circle and then back up the top of the square. So it's that whole shape would be the U. How awesome. Just, it took me years and years. No one knew what it was. It's apparently a lot more obscure than you might think. I looked it up. Thankfully, it's not too valuable. It's not the kind of thing that you have to like worry about, and it's it's worth the gold, right? It's worth less than the gold, which is so silly considering what it is. Right. It's also undeniable the closeness to the alchemical symbol for the Philosopher's Stone. All right, tell me that this wouldn't make a gorgeous pentacle. You know what? Okay. I just realized I have another wooden nickel handy. And look at that, I happen to have a Sharpie. So if we just do the outside edge, do yourself a favor, don't get old. Stop aging at about 25. That's the time to stop aging, 25 years old. Everything's great. Okay. So inside of that circle is a perfect square, right? Mm-hmm. Let's do that. I'm just going to draw the lines with a ruler so that I can get them as straight as possible. I mean, I wouldn't call this like an official magical symbol. There would need to be a little bit of additional work involved. This is very fly-by-night. Let's just do this because it's fun for the stream. Let's play with our toys. Yeah, I didn't mean to make that line all the way down there. That's alright, let's just go. Okay, yeah, that's pretty down and dirty, I'll tell you what. Okay. There's a circle on the inside. So it counts for the O and the U. So it's an important one. I should have touched the bottom. And then the line. And the cup. And there's a cup. I love that. Okay. The V. The E. Isn't it lovely? I know, I do have beautiful line work. It's true. That was with a ruler. But yeah, so, but that said, you know, obviously it's a little different when you're going through a magical process. It's a very different process than what I just did. But this will be interesting. It'll be, you know, I'll just keep this out and we'll, we can, you know, love stuff. Now, here's the truth, though, and this is the important thing to remember. This same symbol exists in a blank wall. You just have to see it. And how do you see it? Speak it. Seeing is an act of creating. Because by seeing it, that implies that something is being spoken that you're seeing. And that means that you're the one speaking it. And since you're speaking it, that's your will speaking it. And since it's your will speaking it, it's you who created it. It's actually kind of pretty right there on this particular seal. This is one of the Saturn seals. And if you look at the gold compared to the brass color, let's see if it shows up on the camera. It's a much more yellow color than the brass, which is almost greenish. I don't know, it doesn't really show up on the camera. Oh, it kind of does there. That was a little more obvious. That yellow is very apparent. How can we contrast that? Blue, maybe? Blue is the opposite. This is cyanish, though. I don't know if it's close enough to see the difference. Oh, it actually looks more white here. That's funny. Compared to the brass. I don't know. Yeah. Yep. I love you. And so consider again the idea of embodiment. This is why we memorize the sigils, so that we don't have to draw them the next time, because we can create that sigil in our minds. By memorizing the symbol and then recollecting the symbol, it does become a physical thing in the real world. It's just in our brains. It's transient. The memory exists, however, and the memory remains. So once we commit the symbol to memory, it's there to be activated. And how do you activate it? You speak its name and it stirs through resonance, right? Same thing with all the other entities. That's why, believe in him or not, Christ exists in the hearts of billions of people over thousands of years. That symbol's powerful. So does Buddha. So does Satan. So that idea is that you could easily activate that part of you once you memorize the symbol. And the symbol, there is no more powerful magic in the world than the implication of speaking the words "I love you" to somebody, in the recognition that that somebody is you. And when that occurs, conversation happens. So, you know what else I bumped into? Like, I'm not going to read it tonight, but the Little Book of Nostradamus. I don't even know how this came into my possession, to be honest. But it did. So there's a few things that we were going to kind of cover that are a continuation of yesterday. The first thing is, and it took me a little while to finally get it all together. I had some technical issues. Is the idea of scanning tarot cards as a meditation. one thing to look at a card and to study it and to read the books. My first book that I took seriously, there were many books. My first tarot book, I was 6 years old when I bumped into it, or even maybe younger. I was around that age. My grandmother had, and it was really just a pictorial book of the Tarot de Marseille, and I had no idea what I was looking at the time. But the first book I took seriously was 78 Degrees of Wisdom, Rachel Pollack. Anyone who reads cards, you know that book, right? And that's a great one. That really woke me up to a different way of looking at the cards from a symbolic representation. Actually, there's a couple. Magic Squares with Love is a great. And, I actually, funny, I used to work with and was good friends with. We kind of fell apart because she moved. And we just didn't stay in touch, and it's nobody's fault. She's one of my favorite living human beings. Her name is Evol, which is love backwards. And just an awesome person. But putting the word love into a square is very cool. You could do the same thing with the word tarot. Just drop the T. Tarot, Rota, Autor, and so forth. And when you look at the different combinations of how those letters interact, it's pretty neat. But as a meditative tool, it's good to. And the first time I was introduced to this technique was through a book. I believe the book was Modern Magic, Donald Michael Craig, which I've talked about, I think, once before. That book is great because it's sort of a little bit of a lot of subjects, and so it's a good primer for somebody that's new. Truthfully, that particular book, unless it's been updated with some stuff, has some good charts and so forth, but it's really more for beginners. If you need charts, go to Crowley. He's got all the charts you need, right? And all that's available online for free and so forth. But what Donald Michael Craig was a practicing real, not out for the fame and the fortune kind of person. It was like he knew the work, and so the technique is to look at a small portion of the card at a time with the intent of getting as granular as you can in your understanding of it. And the real goal is to memorize it, square by square. And so there's a couple of ways that you can go about this, and it depends upon your level of commitment. The first level of commitment is you buy the deck and you read the little white book and you do readings and eventually get good at it and so forth. But as we know, that is as far from the truth as can be with respect to why the oracle was created in the first place and what it actually represents. And so the other extreme is to integrate the knowledge so deeply into your psyche that it becomes your worldview, that it no longer is a product of thought. You just recollect when necessary, and when not, it sleeps. You resonate when you need to, and the information comes to the forefront, and then you stop the note, it disappears, and you're off in your life, right? And so by integrating that a piece at a time allows for more detail to come to the forefront during that recollection. So as an example, if we look here, and now unfortunately I had a technical problem. I don't know what happened. If you remember during my Crowley episode, which was also riddled with technical issues, unfortunately, I was able to zoom in on pictures and so forth just using the standard Windows photo viewer. For some reason it stopped working and I can't figure it out. I took more time than I probably should have troubleshooting it and started the stream late tonight and so forth. And so I thought, okay, I don't have time for this. And so what I did is I uploaded a lot of images onto Google Drive. And unfortunately, the Google image viewer does not let me zoom past this point, right? So these scans go so far that it's kind of crazy, actually, how clean. The scans came out at a higher zoom level. But the intent here, the goal here is to memorize each individual square. So start with, like, for instance, ending at that dove and up to the top of the card, right? So just the dove, the cup, whatever these rainbow stripes are, don't worry about them because they're part of the overall picture. Just look at them in context of that square. A hand holding this thing, which looks like a tetrahedron, right? Maybe a tetrahedron inside of a dome, right? Whatever the case. And just look at it from that respect. And just so ignore that it's the Fool as its totality and just look at that piece. You can either spend 10 minutes on that one spot, or 5 minutes, or a day, and spend the entire day on that spot. And so every once in a while, you come back to the card, and you look at that one spot, you think about a different portion of it. Look at just the colors. There's some red on top, it's kind of bluish purple in the middle, there's white on the bottom, What's that stuff in the back there, right? Those are eyes kind of looking, or something. What is that back there? Go through that exercise. Go about your day, come back to it, spend another 5 or 10 minutes, and just spend a whole day on one square. Next, we will do the square in between the bird and the head. Make kind of voided space in between where those lines begin to come out and all these other things, right? You should be able to see my mouse. And so we can, like this line here is an example. What is it on these, what are these bands that are sort of in front of these flames, in front of this rainbow kind of vibe, and so forth. We see these little droplets. And then we get to the head, the face, right? And there's an interesting point about this, which I the first time I heard it was like, I never considered that. He has no eyelids. His eyes aren't wide open. He has no eyelids. The Fool is unable to not see. The Fool cannot close his eyes. Just let's sit on that for a minute. Awesome. That's how we are anyway, aren't we? Go ahead, close your eyes as hard as you want. You're just going to see lights. Because all we can do is receive. We cannot not receive. That's all we're ever doing, is receiving. Okay. Right, and then you go through these motions here, and then go down to the next portion of the card, right? So below the bird there. And then move on, right? What is that? It's a vulture chasing a butterfly. Is that a vulture? It looks like a vulture chasing a butterfly. We have a caduceus that's swirling into the heart of the Fool. Let me go ahead and zoom out on that for you. In the heart, out of the heart. In the heart, out of the heart, right? It's a big spiral in, big spiral out, right? Or is they both spiraling in at the same time, right? That's the question you have to ask yourself. The sun. And if you consider the placement of the sun, I mean, it's not ironically placed there. That is completely unironically placed there. And if we consider that with respect to the tree, the sun is the yellow, the Tiferet in the middle there. Here you see Yesod in purple in the place of the genitals of the individual here. But that implies that the crown, from a chakra perspective, is at the top, And if you shift this individual up so that the crown is in the brain, it moves that up, doesn't it? And so it moves the root chakra from Yesod into Tifaret, but moving up the middle pillar, basically. Again, I'm not going to teach Kabbalah because I am not qualified to do so, and that would just be a disservice to you and disrespectful to the art. However, I can allude to it. But you get the idea here. And then there's this other stuff going on down here, right? Like what you talked about yesterday. See, I like this depiction of the animal because oftentimes with the Fool, we see the dog as the friendly. Actually, I have it right up here. Let me get rid of the title. The dog is like friendly. Artie, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. Or it implies that there's a friendliness to the dog, and that has not always been the case. In fact, that's very recent. The dog has always been mean to the Fool. The dog is a local, and the Fool is an interloper. The Fool is from elsewhere. Let me show you an example of that. Let me get the right name. This is the Saprofino, the Anima Antiqua. It's an old version of the Marseille. It's the Italian version of the Marseille, which is a French. There you go. How do you like that right on top? I know there's a couple underneath, so let me just get them all. Is that really how he stores his cards? It's just cardboard. It's okay. It's the message. It's the message that matters. Yeah, I know, but it's like they're holy. It's just cardboard. It's replaceable. When you've lost a first print, book 4, and tens of thousands of dollars worth of crystals and incense and tarot decks that are, this, like, you understand what value is and what isn't, right? It doesn't matter at all. This is okay. Some are special, I'll admit. That might be on the bottom there. Okay. And right on top, interestingly, is the Fool with the dog, okay? And so this is the whole reason I pulled this box out. There's a way for me to move the... I'm going to leave some space just to make sure that the other cards will fit. Okay. All right. And so here we have an authentic Fool where the dog is protecting the town from the Fool. Right, like the Fool in this particular circumstance is some kind of like, who's you wandering into my area with your dirty clothes and your stink? Right, like you don't belong here, man. Like John the Baptist, the wild man, the crazy man in the woods. And then we have the alligator. So, I encourage anybody who reads cards beyond the level of just strictly sort of a a fun exercise to go through this process, and it doesn't have to be to the degree that you're taking a day per square. Just, you know, even if you just took set a timer and take 15 minutes per square, and cut the card up into like 9. That's not so bad, right? If you cut the card up into 9, you know, you'd basically be starting here, up, and then you do the middle portion in 3 sections and do the bottom portion in 3 sections. Right? And in just a couple of hours of dedicated study, you're going to know this card inside and out, burned into your brain. Like the difference between the colors of the yellows and the blues and the, you know, these different things. I always found that interesting too, like this. Let me just zoom in on it so it can be a little more clear. I always found it interesting that his feet are pointed in what seems like an odd configuration. You know, this one's pointed out this way and this one's facing the opposite direction, as if they're twisted in opposite directions. Yep. This is a great one right here too. This card is the one that it kind of it tells the ending of the story in a very, very beautiful way. And there's a lot going on in this one. That Mobius strip is really something. I don't know, I've always been a fan of that 3-dimensional Mobius strip back there. And her depiction of the elements. Okay, so yeah, let me make sure that this is centered properly. Zoom in so I know what I'm looking at. Okay. You know, trying to tweak this is a work in progress. So I just want to find where's the spot where it's zoomed in all the way. There we go. Isn't that a beautiful image of her standing on the head of the serpent? Right, those who have been around the channel here and have heard me go through the story of the serpent and who she is and the whole thing. She's you. You're the serpent. That's right. You're also the one that ate the apple. I always wondered, was it sour or sweet? I mean, I guess it was a sweet apple, but really the best apples aren't the sweetest, right? There's that middle. I mean, Granny Smiths are great. I like a nice tart apple too. But if it's too sweet, you know, it's not. So I wonder. I mean, what was it? And again, I always envisioned it as not an apple. And I have it stuck in my brain just because it makes so much sense once I heard it as that it's pomegranate. Speaking Hebrew. What? Right. What's that last one? That last one, I'm not. Let's do a little. Let's do a little translation. Get rid of the text. Oh, okay, I see. Beautiful. Now, there's various words in Hebrew for the term love, right? And so it's not something that you can, it's easy to look up. If you put the word love in, you're probably going to get something related to agape or something similar to that. But let's find out. Yeah. This is ahava. What about I wonder what would it do with the transliteration of that? Agape would be oh, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do that in English. What does it think this word is? Oh, agape. Sorry. Tangent, but not really. The magic behind "I love you" is special because, again, the idea is it implies communication. But it also implies the power of truly recognizing, and I mean truly knowing who's talking and who's listening in that conversion. It's such an important point because it's literally everything. It's the reason the universe manifested to begin with, is because you chose to inhale. To take yourself in. I wonder. This is a different book. This is a special one. This one I don't write in very often. I'm just going to read a small section from a piece that I wrote related to this was inspired by me going through a period of time where I decided to start writing. It just kind of happened once. But it was weird how it all came about, but I just began doing that. Are we looking at... Oh, Emma. I remember Emma. How's it going? So are we looking at Nostradamus? Yeah, I mean, because I have a little book here. Which one are you referring to? This is my little book of Nostradamus. Before I read that piece, let's just have this. Let's have a little fun with Emma, since Emma's gonna come in and try to have fun with us. Let's have fun together. So 7 months Great War, people dead through evil. Though the Russian invasion of Ukraine has already gone on 7 months, there are many wars, so Nostradamus apparently claims something in 20. There is never not a war somewhere. It matters a lot more to the Ukrainians than it does to us right now. So whatever opinion anybody here has about what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, try being Ukrainian tonight. But But yeah, do you know what quatrain that was? 7 months Great War. People dead through evil. A great star through 7 days will burn, so that 2 suns appear. The large mastiff all night howls when the great pontiff changes his territory. The great pontiff is dying. What are the 2 suns? It matters to everybody. It matters to the whole planet. It was more of a statement of the fact that the people who are having the bombs literally dropped on them are probably have a little more skin in this game than we do here talking about it. That's all I was getting at. But you're absolutely right. This is a big deal. And, politics are not a subject that I get to on my channel. The reason I'm speaking to it is because it's not a political statement that what's happening is kind of the worst side of humanity. Well, I mean, and if I happen to bump into it, we'll see, because this is not the full works of Nostradamus, obviously. This is a small little book of some choice ones that are, like, fun to talk about, because they're, like, right on. But, it's a coffee table type book. I don't even know where they came from. Before the people blood will be spilt from the sky, it will not come. But from a long time there will be none that are heard. The spirit of one alone shall bear witness to it. But you get the gist, yeah. And, it's a majority of what he was writing seems like it was geared toward specific audiences of the time that he knew was reading his work. And so it was his way of getting in their minds without them knowing it, which he was certainly capable of. But that said, yeah, I'm not going to get into politics. I mean, I think that, there's no war that I can think of that's worth it. And the fact is if we all kind of considered and had right thinking, war wouldn't even be an option. It wouldn't even enter our minds because it's too horrible of a thought. Why would we go there? What's the point of that? I mean, we already deal with enough that's in our circumstance that we is completely out of our control. So, but yeah. I don't think so at all. I think that one of the reasons that he was able to do that is that he knew the truth, first of all. And second of all, I think that it's also very easy to interpret his quatrains in multiple ways. All right, let's just look at a couple. Random. He who will have government at the Great Cape will be led to take action. The 12 red ones will come to spoil the cover. Under murder, murder will come to be done. Okay, so murdering the 12 red ones refers to clearly the period of time that is referring to the change of the precession of equinoxes from one into the other. And the murder is referring to the death of the old age into the new. Right now, he who will have government of the Great Cape. Now, the Great Cape can refer to the northeast quadrant of the circle, right? Which would be, well, let's go to the wheel. Not that wheel, this wheel. Libra Scorpio, right? And clearly everything I just said is a lie. It's completely just, looking for it there. But now let's read this person's commentary. Herbie Brennan. Although frequently taken as an ecclesiastical prediction, this quatrain could easily refer to the South Africa, a country that includes Cape Providence. If so, the thrust of the prophecy seems to point to an internal rebellion with considerable bloodshed before the authorities managed to restore law and order. Okay, now where does this person get Cape Providence? He who will have the government of the Great Cape. Okay, the Great Cape. Cape Canaveral. Who is the governor of Cape Canaveral? Cape Fear. Cape Providence, right? The 12 red ones will come to spoil the cover. The 12 red ones. An internal rebellion. But why 12? Like when a number is spoken, there's a look at that number. Like why 12? And I've heard the stuff of like the eagle and the bear. Like, okay. The eagle is going to be the new symbol of Scorpio. That's a true story. It's well, actually, oh, here, I just had it up. At the coming of the new aeon, the new age, when that occurs, and we twist into the new age, the sky symbols change a little bit. The names are going to change a little bit. And that includes the glyphs associated with them. And they've changed before, and they're going to change again. They change every... let's go to the calculator. The circle of the year is 360 degrees, and the precession turns at a 72 degree period, or 72 years per degree. Each tick of 1 degree in that circle takes 72 years, which is a period of time of 25,920 years divided by each individual sign gives us a period of 2,160 years per ruler before the procession marches on and there's a new ruler. And I am going to speak about that at some point with a very in-depth explanation of the mathematics behind it, the ratios and so forth, because it's an important subject. But that said, the idea of that procession is that as we move in and out of ages, the old one dies and the new one's born. So. Sorry. That table's typically in the way. So I'm just going to take a small break, but before I do that, oh, you know what? Look, isn't that funny? Wow. Here's the notes that I was speaking about that talk to that specific subject that we just spoke about, related to the procession. That's so funny. And I even have a little diagram. I've used these notes many times, so I have to redo them. But that diagram there, 25,920, 72 years, the procession. I used the diagram of Orion, 72 degrees, or 72 years per 1 degree, right? But I'm just going to step away for a moment and make a cup of coffee. And before I do that, I just wanted to read this because we're on the subject of love. And it's important that we look at it from sort of the correct perspective. The only where I agree... Food Wars is a little different. Like, for instance, New York has the best pizza. Fight me. Right? But that said, though, so... yeah, that sounds like you have a bad block or a bad cable, but it could be a bad battery. Yeah, that's unfortunate. There's only one pope? That's not true. You may be talking about there's only one true pope, right? Maybe. And by whose standard? What's a pope? That's a very specific thing. That's that's that, to me, there are no popes. Who are you? You're a man, buddy. Who are you kidding? And the one that we have right now seems to agree with that, right? But that said, Yeah, there's many popes. My pope is Omar Khayyam Ravenhurst. So that said, you consider the idea, right? It's just a word, and it matters to nobody except the people that are in the sphere of that word, what that word influences. And if the word influences you to the point that you feel there's one pope, then that is relevant to you, but not to me. And so the Pope never dies, because once he's dead, there's another one. The king is dead. Long live the king. The king is a title. It's a transient state of being. This is good stuff right here. I'm just saying. I won't read you the whole thing, but so okay, here's the deal. I was going through a period of time where I started writing, and I was asking strangers for 3 words. Each individual person, just give me a random word, first one that comes to your mind, and they would give me a word. I would write it down, and then I would write something using those 3 words. And now some stuff came out of that was very, very cool. Very powerful stuff. There's truth in it. And then so I decided to take some of those and kind of stick them together into a story. And the story is an idea of this individual, this man, that it has an object of his desire, and he wants her, and he wants her bad, but he doesn't believe he can have her. Now, on the other side, she knows this, and she uses it. And so, this is, kind of a narrative from one person to oneself about this circumstance. A soliloquy. But okay, yeah, so this is very revealing stuff, so I guess, but why not? Let's put it out there. I need it in front of me, but I don't want you to see the words. Give me a second. It's a good spot that I can do that. I can block it right here. You can't see the words. Ma. See the words? Nope. Okay. Yes. That comes from the Department of Redundancies Department. Mm-hmm. The truth has to be a fact. That's right. What are facts? That's what we're talking about here. It's all a lie. Religion, education, identity, personality. It points to the truth, kind of. This is a little closer to the truth, but it's in secret. It's not something you can just know. And then there's the truth. She gazed madly at the sheer voluptuous silk that was my anticipation. as the thoughts of the caramel of her kiss caressed my dreams. The random nature of her eyes smiled a spectacular melody, ecstasy and song, marinating my passion into a being. My hesitation was as surprising as it was selfless, an act of foregoing the heart for the grace of the vision of her beauty. The chrome of her smile that shone my desire like a goddess reflecting the light of a woman in the act of reception. It was in a league all of its own, to be seen by everyone but had by none, until the unthinkable happened. How does one describe what followed next, other than to define love itself? For what is love but the desire of two to become one, and that one to dissolve themselves into a single doing, and from that doing into a being? The annihilation of all, leaving nothing but the feeling, the motion of waves upon waves, sending them each adrift into the sea of the other. She took my face. She took my face into her hands, and I hers, her fingers dragging across my cheeks and up the back of my neck, cupping my head in her hands as if she were ready to drink the heat of our touch. Wow, I like that. Look, where did I come up with that? It's channeled. They sent a shock through my body, weakening my knees, while strengthening the anticipation further than I thought possible. Equally building desire and fulfilling it at the same time, creating a steadily growing angst for the next phase of our encounter. Suddenly, the thought occurred to me. If this is our first kiss, the both of us are in a lot of trouble. The best kind of trouble. Oh, a card went flying. We're going to look at that card together in a moment. That's one kind of love. I'm going to leave that right there. Nah, maybe not. I want everyone to think. I don't want you to think anything. Let's just see what it is. Oh, neat. That came up from yesterday. Good. So it was just the one on top. Okay, good. No. The truth is not verifiable. It cannot be taught. It can only be learned. It can't be observed. It can only be known. So the idea of information being verifiable is a misunderstanding of the word truth. Here's what truth is: questions and answers. They seem like opposites, but they're not. They're actually one thing. They're two sides of the same coin that have a separate opposite, and that opposite is truth. So if you are asking a question, you will receive an untruth, because the only thing that questions lead to is answers. And so rather, you need to seek truth, which means be open to what is coming, see it for what it is, try to ignore the mental process until you have a chance to install it. Take in the information emotionally first, then process it mentally after that. But recognize always who it is that's actually speaking and who's listening. Because at the end of the day, if you're in the state of listening, the only thing you can hear is the sound of your own voice, period. And when you are in a state of speaking, you're not speaking. You're still the one listening. And so at the end of the day, what you're talking about here with respect to what truth is, what you're referring to is called empiricism. And empiricism is, if I see it and it works, it must be true. And that's true. That is correct. Empiricism is a form of truth, but not the only truth. Because we know the fact that I can observe this pair of glasses and say, yup, that's a pair of glasses. Oh, well, maybe it's arbitrary that they're glasses. Maybe they're just glasses to me. No, it's clear. There's enough people out there that wear them and know people who wear them. They have a function. Their function is to bend light in such a way that it magnifies the cone of incident on my retina. Fine. And that has a purpose, which is designed to help me to visually process information that my brain is used to processing. My brain likes sharp edges, not blurry ones, and so these help that to occur. So we can all agree that this is a pair of glasses, but we know that it's not a pair of glasses, is it? It's a collection of a series of probability distributions known as particles that coalesce due to our observation of it. And it doesn't have a definition until I give it one. And so the truth is that it's not glasses. The answer is, what is this? Glasses. That's an answer, and not the truth, right? And so when we look at what the truth of it is, what is this? It's you. I'm you. This is your voice. This is what you look like. Touch your face. That's what you feel like. Touch the floor. You also feel like that. Touch the wall. That's you. Look at you. Look how cute you are. And this isn't a semantic argument. We're not having a semantic argument about what truth is and whatever the case. What we're having an argument about is the difference between truth and answers. All right. Some answers, no, the glasses are not a human being, but they're also not glasses. These are not a human being, but neither are you. You're not a human being either. As much as these are glasses is as much as you are a human being. They are glasses because we call it that, but they're not. It's a collection of particles. Glasses is a term for the function. Glasses is an adjective, not a noun. Human being is an adjective, not a noun. And being is a verb. You are being Emma. Emma doesn't exist. There is no human being. You're a collection of particles that next to me in the air, and then me, the only difference is density. And the fact that we're seeing it in time, thinking that these discrete moments of individual moments of stillness put together in a stream look like motion and movement and things and stuff. Sorry, it's not true. What's true is that there is no motion. What's true is the Big Bang never happened. Duality is a lie. Duality is what keeps us from knowing the truth, which is that, you know what I heard today? Spoke by the great Milo DuQuette. My God is so big, he can't have an opposite. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Alrighty, awesome. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming back. And so let's continue here with this. Let's start up there a little bit, because I saw a couple words that I want to talk about. That is what the cults say. They have a secret only they know. Yeah, no. You know what's inside here? It's a secret. It's not a secret anymore. You just didn't know. A secret is ignorance. Ignorance is cured through knowledge. However, truth can only be seen through knowing. Knowledge and knowing are different. One is a noun, one is a verb. But now, let's look at this here. Everything is made up of particles, atoms, etc. Everything, yes. What about no thing? Everything, right. And what is a particle? I'm warning you, I'm pretty good at quantum mechanics. So this is going to be a fun conversation because I'm prepared. But that said, the idea of what a particle is, if you consider from the Newtonian, it's a billiard ball that bangs around, and it's highly predictable where that ball is going to go based on certain criteria, right? Yeah, drinking coffee, atoms, still coffee. No, I agree. No, I'm not there yet. Don't worry. We're in Newtonian world. We're in classical. We're still measuring with FMA. What I'm referring to outside of that is the universe of stillness, where there is no motion. People, oh yes, they are. We're a collection of particles. But there's the other side too. This is what I'm getting at, Emma. There is the vehicle that we drive. And now that is a lie. That's the lie we've been told by spiritualism over the years, that we're not the vehicle, we're the thing that's driving it. And so our body is separate from us. And we are simply the observer of the thoughts, simply the observer of the light coming in, the sound coming in. I tell that lie all the time on this channel. And so we're the observer of the thought, we're the occupier of the body, and that's not true. We are the body. That's what we are. We're fooled by the ego into thinking we're the observer. We are the same as the glasses. What is this? It's many things depending upon the language system I give you. If I ask you what this is with respect to numbers, it's a 2. With respect to letters, it's a V. With respect to body parts, it's fingers. No, of course they're not. But what I'm saying is that humans aren't humans. That's just a word we use to describe the form. We're actually just a collection of atoms, just like the glasses. The difference is that we're animated in a different fashion. This is animated to the degree that it only has one knowledge, whether or not it's in contact with something. So it doesn't go through the table. It knows the table from the strict sense of the fact that it is in contact and it has no other knowledge or consciousness. It's just simply aware of the charge, the repulsion of the strong and weak that keep it from falling apart or coming together. And then you have plants, which are another level of consciousness. They're aware, but they're not aware that they're aware, and their level of consciousness is strictly to the degree of light. And they move toward it, and they dig for water. So there's this constant upward motion and downward motion at the same time. It's kind of the opposite of the way we picture ourselves. Coming from above and below to meet in the middle as this object. The flower, the plant, the tree goes up and down at the same time with the intent of reaching that heat source. But it's still just a collection of atoms, but it's animated by life. The glasses are not alive from our definition. They can't reproduce, they can't react to stimuli. I disagree. It didn't go through the table, it reacted to stimuli. Can it reproduce? No. Can it metabolize? Not really, kind of, but not really. It does exchange energy with its environment, and that's can be considered consumption. The idea of reception and bestowal, breathing in and breathing out, eating and providing. But that said, though, we have this another level of consciousness in the plant that's strictly conscious. It just knows that there's something there, and it has a will to move toward it. Whether that will is mechanical based on the manifestation of order that's built into the cells, and it's just playing out the rules. So are we. We're just at a complex level, and we have an ego that fools us into thinking that we're in control of that. And then there's another level of consciousness in the animal. The cat, the dog, the bird, the lizard, the small cell organism that desires to love. It's aware. It's not aware that it's aware, but it's aware of the other. The flower isn't aware of the other. It's just aware of the heat, the warmth, the love. And it doesn't love back. It just receives. It's just still in its world, receiving love. The dog, the bird, the cat wants love. It seeks it. It's the will to a next level. So the massive particles that are really just probability distributions prior to observation, which collapses the wave function, giving it form. It's nothing more than potential. The glasses, the animal, the plant, you. That's all it is. Just manifested through different forms of awareness. That's what defines an object's level of consciousness, is its level of awareness. Then we get to the human. We're self-aware. So we're not just aware, we're aware that we are. We're not just aware of our environment, but we're aware that we're aware of the environment. We have the ability to separate from that and to say, okay, well, there's the environment and me. No, that's the lie. That's the lie that crept in when we became self-aware. And at the end of the day, we're all just the same particle being split multiple ways through the act of observation that have coalesced and manifested through the four laws: gravity, magnetism, strong and weak, and the four states, solid, liquid, gas, and plasma, mixed together as the higher and lower world to create the product of the word being spoken. Wow. There's a lot of alchemy in Matthew. But so... but that said, though, what we're getting at here is the idea of what life is different degrees of awareness, starting with solid inanimate life being strictly the idea of objects becoming and changing and coalescing. A planet, turning into gas and then coalescing elsewhere, getting sucked into a star, becoming you. Like, where did this come from? It came from the sun. It literally came from the stuff that's in the sun. What is your body made of? The breath that we breathe, right? We take in oxygen and nitrogen, and we breathe out carbon, right? And so we're actually made up of the oxygen that we breathe and the hydrogen or the nitrogen that we breathe, and we get rid of waste in the form of carbon. But so that said, we are what we breathe, and the stuff that makes up our form is just a collection of the same particles that make up the glasses. And the only difference is that we are aware of that fact, while the glasses aren't. The only difference between the sage and the normal person is the sage knows who's talking. That's it. And it seems like a philosophical conversation, but it's really scientific. Because what we're trying to do, and this is where the confusion comes into this conversation, Emma. It's the idea of trying to resolve an infinite subject with finite tools. And science is unfortunately a finite tool. Once you bring infinity into the circumstance, the math breaks. That's why Einstein had issues with relativity and the fact that the speed of light can never be achieved. Once you hit infinite, there's an infinite amount of energy necessary, and there clearly is not an infinite amount of energy accessible to us, and so we will never get there. But we don't have to. It's not about that. What is a person? It's just a word to describe a form that we think of as a collection of genetic material that takes on this shape, which is basically a symmetrical pentagonal form. 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 limbs, 5 senses. We're also a manifestation of the golden mean through the Vesica Pisces, like the eyes, the throat, the heart, right, and then all the way down. Like we take in the world. Everything that we take in is birthed through this shape. It passes through that shape, including your physical form came into the world through that shape. The mouth, the nose, the eyes, and that's all there. To infinity and beyond. Well, the beauty about getting there is that once he did, he realized that he was already there all along. He was already there all along. What is a person? Right, correct. Yes, very much. You are correct. Person is a word to describe an abstract. A person is what then? The moon. Lauren, how's it going? Oh my gosh, I miss your face. The moon is a word and an object. We can all agree. Go look at it. There it is. And so let's do that, right? It's the word. The word represents the abstract idea of a body that floats around and in gravity and it creates tide and all this stuff. Great. But then there's the actual object. Moon. The word, it's just a word that we arbitrarily both agree means that, so that we can use it to mean that. And when we say that word, we mean that and not this. And not that, and not that, but it means that. That's what the word means. And the word simply refers to a form in our minds of what that thing is the last time we looked at it. But now it's changed, hasn't it? The rocks have changed, dust has moved around, things have fallen onto it, making it heavier. It's not the same moon. In fact, every second it's not the same moon. Energy is exchanged between its particles and the particles of the space around it in the form of cosmic radiation. There's so many neutrinos. There's so much going on here. And so the moon that we look at and then look again is not the same moon. And the moon you look at and I look at are not the same moon. Moment to moment, they're different. The angle of our viewing is different. And so what it actually is none of those things. We just agree upon that concept and go, okay, the moon is the moon and we know what it is. And we're taking that as for granted, that it's changed over time, it's getting closer and further away and all these things and fine. But and that the particles change. It's not the same object. We grow and change. Our bodies are completely renewed, every 10 years or so. Not the same bones, not the same skin. You are not the same person that was born. And so at the end of this whole process, what we wind up coming to the realization of is that there is really no difference between our form and the forms of the objects around us. We're just animated. But what animates it? That's the thing that we actually are. But that thing that animates it is no different than the thing that doesn't animate this non-solid stuff, or the non-animated stuff, conscious stuff. I'm sorry. That's unfortunate. It's an ugly statement. Going through some legal stuff. That's unfortunate. A person is not merely a word, not a polyester Chinese skunk. A person is not a set of glasses. Why not? I'm not following. Like I want to understand how you make the distinction between these objects and me, other than the fact that I, for And if we were to weigh me right now and then kill me and weigh me, I'm not going to weigh any different. The thing that leaves the body when I die, the moment before my death and after my death, my form is no different, but I'm not there anymore. The thing that's the person is gone, right? And the thing that occupies that person is eternal, immortal, infinite, and you. Not me, it's you. It's no different than you. It's no different than the you that's your eternal, immortal, infinite. It's the consciousness that gave birth to the entire totality of existence. That's playing it out. And so you listening to my voice is God hearing himself speak. And that thing that's listening and speaking at the same time is formless and timeless. It is a polyester Chinese skunk. It is glasses. It is a human. It is the idea of love, and it is the sensation, which is different for everybody. And so it's hard to hold two competing ideas in the mind, but that's what we're saying. Or what I was saying with respect to duality being the thing that holds us back from knowing the truth, because duality assumes that there's a separateness between you and the creator. You are the creator. That's not a blasphemous statement. It's recognizing that there is the creature and the creator that occurred at the same time. When you blow into a balloon, the balloon didn't inflate in anticipation of the air entering it. It blew up with it. The desire to create and the creation occurred at the same time. There are no words. Words are just a construct of the mind in order to try to make sense of its environment. The word is not a thing. Well, okay, that's debatable. That's the question then, isn't it? Right? What is a soul? Is a soul aware? Because someone will say that the definition of a soul is pure consciousness, not the body that it utilizes, not the vehicle that it drives around in, not the space that it occupies and drives through. But you believe in consciousness, and that's what I'm getting at. So, is the consciousness then? Because this is the big problem. The idea of consciousness. This is the problem, the question. Where do you go when you sleep? Where do you go when you die? Right? And all these things. And what is consciousness, therefore? The awareness. What is the consciousness of the plant that allows it to move toward the tree or the sun? Is it strictly a chemical biological process? Fine. Then so are you. What is love? It's chemicals. That's it. I smell a pheromone. It triggers a reaction that I've been programmed in my genes to react to that says that person's in a state of wanting to mate, and probably not a bad idea to do that. Based on whatever my chemicals are in theirs, those two combine, it creates a scent. If that scent is, in both of our minds, triggered to a certain sensation of good, the connection happens. If it's bad, it doesn't. Or maybe I have to work harder, or she has to work hard, whatever the case may be. And that's purely on the biological level. What's actually happening on the energetic level that's making that all take place is a very different circumstance. Because it's one consciousness playing out these ideas. But so the question is, yes, that's right. Yup. You were fucked into existence, brother. Sorry. That's right. Just consider the words I've said over and over on this channel multiple times. Reception, bestowal, inhale, exhale, positive, negative. The universe is one big wet dream that never happened. That's right. I said it. And what are we? We're all manifestations of that. We're all the manifestation of the give and the take, the inhale and the exhale. We're either listening or speaking. And ultimately, that's not what we're doing. We're not doing any of those things. Because that's just the idea of remaining in physical space. The idea of creation from the respect of the human angle, the human perspective, is very much misunderstood. And it's our compulsion to be like the Creator, right? Where we receive, the Creator bestows. We receive light and sound and smell and taste and touch, and our entire experience is nothing more than receiving the world around us. Now we think we have control of that because we can navigate through it and we can make change. Oh, I moved that card. I'm going to move it again. Nothing just took place. What actually happened? My awareness changed. As a series of discrete steps in time, Planck times, it was there, and then we checked it and it was there, and we checked it and it was there. But all that actually happened is a series of particles that are in a still state, not moving, no spinning, no moving, zero movement, are talking and changing states, flopping back and forth. They're not actually moving in space. They're strictly one state of the probability of one or the other, and they imagine themselves as one or the other. And we view that as motion, very much on the screen. The pixels aren't moving. They're changing color, but it looks like motion. That's the universe. And the tools that we use to observe the universe, we see motion with. But when you get down further and further and further, it's actually just the stillness. And that stillness is one particle that's still, that never manifested. It's the same particle that's always been. What happened before the Big Bang? The end of the last one. I'm wondering what a good direction to send you would be to get a different perspective on that idea. I have a great book. It's called The Tao of Physics. It came out in like the beginning of the 70s. I think it might have actually been as late as 1975. But it's a great book with respect to the idea of the polarity and the ideas of polarity and gender, and how these different energies wind up manifesting as particles and waves. This is the idea, obviously, of the wave, which is just a particle that hasn't been defined yet. It's potential. And so it's moving around, waiting for a place to land. And when it does, silence. The power of community, gathering around. I've mentioned something on the channel here many, many times. And it's the idea that when we descended, when you decided, I, not I, that moment created the physical universe, the Big Bang, all manifest reality. And when that occurred, the personality, I became we. And each one of these, the story is told very, very beautifully in the Kabbalah with respect to that divine light breaking into multiple pieces. And those are really just different pieces of the same identity. They're just different lenses, and each one is thinking that we're all separate. And so the point here is that we need each other. We can't ascend alone. We have to do it as a universe. Not just all of us as people. We have to ameliorate the entire universe and ascend at one point. Return. Which again, we can't return because we never left. Yes. No. Yes. No. You have a jar of M&Ms. It's one jar, and it's a bunch of M&Ms. The question is which perspective, right? It all comes down to semantics and language, because that's really what the universe is made of, Emma. The universe is not made of particles. It's not made of probability distributions. It's made of language. The idea is that a thing is not a thing until it's observed. That's half the story. It's not a thing until it's defined. What is this? It's nothing until I tell you a language system, or you choose one. Then it's something. It's bunny ears. It's a 2. It's a V. It's fingers. It means peace. It means, whatever it means. It means reception as opposed to bestowal. It means a lot of things. But it's actually none of those things until we give it a definition. So are we looking at the individual particles, or are we looking at the planet Earth, which is one planet, which is actually 10 to the 10 particles, who knows how many, that are individually, separately, kind of doing their own thing, but working as a collective, right? Or, the same idea with fluid dynamics and thermodynamics. When you apply heat to a gas or a liquid, it changes all kinds of things, and it acts both as a single unit and as individual particles, depending upon what your perspective is. And so which one is true? It turns out that the thing moving as one particle is a lie. It's an optical illusion. When you zoom down further, you recognize, okay, wait a minute, these particles are all moving apart from each other. Just like the screen here, you think that there's motion going on until you zoom in and realize, no, these are stationary particles just changing color. You think you're moving? You think that my hand just moved through air? No. Discrete steps, a voxel instead of a pixel, which is a three-dimensional square of probability, change state from up to down. And it just looks like me moving. There is no me. There's no difference between me and the air other than density. I'm not moving through space. They're just changing states, and it's happening so fast it seems like motion to me. But what's actually happening is nothing. A series of stationary voxels are changing state. And what is making them change that state? The rules. Do I believe I'm an ascended master? No. I believe I'm God. I believe you're God. I believe that we are all mistaking this whole existence as a separateness. It's not about ascended masters. That's a misunderstanding. That's part of the toys. That's part of playing with our toys. Calling down entities and tarot readings and these things. It points to the truth, and there's value in it. The tarot is a powerful tool, but is very often misunderstood and misused. That's right. And man, are my arms tired. Sorry for the delay on the punchline. But no, the idea though is that, let's see, pixels, fingers, words, atoms, ascended people. This is all over the place. No, they're all one thing. What is a voxel? It's a 3D pixel. And so if we were to take this moment for the sake of the conversation, we can't do this in reality, but and pause it and measure everything in the room right now, all the positions of the particles. Okay, yeah, no, ascension is a choice. Do we need to ascend? You don't have a choice. When you attempt to go through that, you have a choice. Whether or not you will, you have no choice. The question is do you swim against the current or with it? And if you swim against it, then it's hard work and you're going to be carried to the end anyway. Or you swim with it and it's nice and easy. But as far as what we're talking about here, as far as ascended masters, that's a term that's been used over and over for people who have come to this truth and are able to display certain abilities based on that. I've mentioned here before with respect to specifically the idea of Eliphas Levi speaking about the imprisoned person with no other book than the tarot, if he knew how to use it, could in a few years gain the universal knowledge. And there's a peace that comes with that, with the truth. Biblical, well, I think that the biblical language is a very good one for describing some of these subjects, for sure, without a doubt. Because the story of the temptation, the apple, the serpent, all of that is very, very specific stuff. And then the whole idea of God manifesting as flesh, the sacrifice, all of it. There's a lot of, that's the hidden kind of part in the language, and depending upon who you speak to, they're gonna probably give you lies. Okay, well, specifically what I'm speaking about, ascension, is the idea of becoming one with yourself, ascending to the place where you already are and have always been. So, the truth in secret is heaven. Beyond the abyss, if you're speaking in the language of Kabbalah, to nirvana, samadhi, stillness, presence, truth. None of those words are right, but they all point to it, because it's unspeakable. Here's the fun and the frustrating part of this conversation, is that this conversation will never end, because we're actually talking about an infinite subject, right? And so you cannot know infinity with a finite brain. So you can't experience the infinite with your mind. You can only experience the infinite with your heart. And that's a term, that's the truth in secret. We don't feel with our physical heart, but we point here because there is something that we do kind of feel something there, right? That's an emotional state. But it's an actual real thing that can be felt, right? Becoming one with oneself. That's a lot of words you're using. Why is it so difficult for you to pin down what you mean? Because we're speaking about the infinite. I can't teach you, but you can learn it. And so how we do that is that we point to it in as many ways as possible until it comes to you. Now, it's not going to happen here and now, just live on a stream, unless that was the goal, in which case there was a way to elicit that through conversation. But here's how to pin it down. You want me to pin it down? You were born at the beginning of time. You are responsible for speaking the world into existence. You exist at the end of time. You never left. Everything that we're experiencing is simply the other side of the coin of our perception, seeing it play out in time-space. There is the us that created it, which is the one side of the coin, which is infinitely aware of the entirety of all probability and existence at the same moment. We call that God. We call that infinite consciousness, oneness, mindfulness, the Akashic record, so forth. The other side of that same coin is the thing being observed, the product, the universe, the physical manifestation, us in our physical forms. And that is the thing that is the receiver of that. And those two things are separate things. Shushu's right. You can't pin it down because there's nothing to pin down. So ascend usually means going up. Well, yeah, but we're talking about, see, going up is a misnomer because there is no up. Up is really just against the gravity field that you're currently occupying. So up to us means there. But if you're standing on the moon, up is, our down. There is no up. Up is relative. Up is a function of the gravitational center of the body that you are being influenced by. But there's also an up, too. You are influencing the Earth gravitationally as well. It's minute, but it's there. And therefore, the universe or the earth looks at you and goes up. Or away from you. It looks away from you and thinks up. It looks at you and thinks down. Right? So there is no up. The word ascend is an attempt to describe a... just like the word descend is a lie. Like there was no descent. There's no fall. These are words to try to describe concepts. We never left. Creation never happened. I wasn't being crass when I said that this was all a wet dream. The fact of the matter is that it's the idea of the constant ebb and flow of mind and heart. And it's all happening at the same time. It depends upon what your perspective is. If you're seeing the world and you're hearing your voice speak to you in light and sound and smell and taste and touch, that's your voice speaking to you through the senses. And if you're in a state of speaking, you have to recognize the truth. You can't speak. You're only the reception. The speaker is everything else. You're both at the same time. So when you take a breath, that's you breathing into yourself. You're blowing into yourself. And when you exhale, you are breathing into the mouth of God. And there's no difference. There's no actual exchange taking place. What's wrong with the Easter Bunny? That's funny. I like the Easter Bunny because it's like totally scamming Christians into following like pagan stuff. I just love that stuff. My favorite thing is when Christians put pentagrams on the top of their druidic worship trees. Anyway, and full disclosure, I'm a deacon in a Christian church. But we have to understand the symbolism here. We're not tree worshipers. We're not worshiping pentagrams. We're not worshiping any of that stuff. The only thing that I worship is divine love. And so it's not about I worship, because here's the point, Emma. You are God. I love you, and when I say that, I mean it, because I know who you are. You are me. I am you. We're just from a different perspective. So when you hear my voice, you think you're separate from that, but it's not. This is the sound of your voice. This music is the sound of your voice speaking to you in music. This is the sound of your voice speaking in this language of rose. But that said, belief is an interesting path because it changes as you come to more truths and you begin to understand more things in life, and you put those puzzle pieces together. You realize, like, wow, I really thought I had this figured out, and I had no idea how wrong I was. And that doesn't typically change. That's the beauty. There are no answers. Let me actually just read you the... There are no answers. The sooner you let go of the compulsion to know and just be, the sooner you will find truth. You are being Emma. Instead, you can just be. Okay, you're separate from other people? Yeah, then you are. And I'm sorry, because it's that's lonely. Here's the cool part. I'm not separate from you. We are one, and I know that, and that your disbelief in that does not affect my belief in that. And it's a pleasure to have you in my stream. It's a pleasure to have you in this conversation. And I enjoyed the discourse. I like the name Emma. What does it mean? Do you know what it means? So, but here's the point. There's and one of the reasons that I'm all over the place on this channel is on purpose, because again, everybody has a different vocabulary. Everybody rings to a different note, and if I hum an F, and you have a guitar in your room that has an F string, that string will vibrate, but the E string won't. And so my goal here is to try to find the language that vibrates your truth. And so that could be I Ching, tarot, that could be Goetia, that could be sacred geometry and numerology, that could be something like aromatherapy, homeopathy, naturopathy. I just joined live, so how do we access Akashic Records or find out purpose? Great question. My favorite question is how. How do we do the thing? Well, it's very simple. Just Venmo me $150. No, I'm kidding. Basically, the idea of the Akashic Record is a concept. And I'm going to give you the short version of what that is. I'm so lost right now and thought I was on the right track. Okay. That's okay. You are on the right track. You're right where you belong. You're doing exactly what you were meant to be doing. And so first of all, let go of your expectation of you being on the wrong path, or that you used to be and aren't any longer, because that's not true. But more important than that, let's talk about what the Akashic Record is. If I take this object, it's a wooden nickel, and I drop it on the table, it made a sound. That sound rang into existence, right? And it started to react in the air, and it rang against particles, banging against particles, and it hit the walls and bounced back, and some of it penetrated the walls, and whatever the case. And eventually a very, 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 very minute, tiny piece of that energy will reach the end of the universe. It's so minuscule, it's virtually undetectable past a mile, but it's there. And here's the point. That sound is also recorded in time, meaning that at the moment that I struck the desk and that sound happened, there is a spatial coordinate of where that took place in the universe with respect to a single point, call it the emergent point of the Big Bang. There is a coordinate, an XYZ, and there's also a temporal coordinate with respect to when that sound happened. And now, based on our perception, we're stuck in nowness. Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate that. What we can do, what we're able to do, is to access that record, that impression on the universe. And now how we go about that is probably a little different than people are thinking. It's not about making sure that you have the right incense in the room with the appropriate crystal music playing. That's misunderstanding the process, although that can help get your mental situation in order. And so it's important as a ritual practice to facilitate that memory of odor. As an example, frankincense brings me right back to Catholic Church chanting. I hear the Kyrie eleison every time I hear or smell frankincense, and I can hear the prayer being spoken in my head, like sung. And there's power to that. And so, but that said, we can access that record. And so what the Akashic Record is basically all of human experience, all of the totality of phenomena has already occurred, and therefore that imprint is a solid, finished work of art that can be, with the appropriate techniques, accessed and interpreted. And so that's the gist of what the Akashic Record is, and the techniques for going about finding the method of doing that. I speak about a little bit here and there. But Katie, if you would like help on finding your purpose, we could do a reading. We can do some cards. We could do some I Ching. I think the I Ching may be good for that. That's a pretty big question. Tarot tends to be a bit more on the specific side. By the way, Emma, if you're still in the room, I just wanted you to know that that's for you, okay? Thank you, Emma, for coming to my channel and for engaging in that way. That means so much to me. I love that. And I want to be clear, I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. No, it isn't. That's not a leap of faith. That's just a misunderstanding of time-space. Einstein proved it. Time is a function of the acceleration compared to the observer. And so if you are looking at that from the perspective of the particle that's moving, the particle is outside of time. Timeless. Not moving in time. Eternal. Immortal. From the perspective of the observer of the particle, it's moving. And it's moving at a rate based on its speed, its vector compared to the observer, and the speed and vector of the observer compared to the thing being observed. However, from the respect of the particle, and now you got to follow me because it's going to sound a little weird at first, but I am looking at the particle. From the perspective of the particle, from my view, the particle is at zero velocity. From the perspective of the particle, it's watching the universe zoom past it at the speed of light. And from my perspective, from the view of the particle, I am stationary and have never moved and will never move. I am the same thing I was at the beginning of time. It never changed for the particle, because once you reach light speed, time stops. So the idea is that the totality of phenomena has already occurred, just not from our perspective, because we're not moving fast enough to know that. And so we're stuck behind it, waiting to catch up. We're at the end watching, and we're watching ourselves catch up to it. But at the same time, we're in the perspective of the one that's traveling. So we just need to flip our lens by recognizing that we're both at the same time. We are the breath that blew into the balloon, and we're the balloon at the same time. We're both the giver and the receiver of that. And so when you have that realization, it allows you to flip the lens. Right now I'm looking out into the world, and I'm looking at me speak through the language of symbol. The symbol of I love you. You see that? But at the same time, there's the observer of that. And this is not a symbol for that outside of anyone who's looked at it and knows that, or speaks English and understands that. It's just a bunch of lines. And it's actually, they're very crudely drawn, and it's kind of not a pretty example. Is there an Einstein paper somewhere that documents where Einstein has proven totality of phenomena has already occurred? Brownian motion. And general relativity. General relativity. Yeah. Is there an Einstein paper? I mean, I understand why you stated it that way, and that's very cute of you, but let's just get to the point. Is there an Einstein paper somewhere that documents where Einstein has proven totality of phenomena has already occurred? Yes. It's his paper on general relativity. The idea is, just to be clear, and please do me a favor and verify this with a particle physicist. The faster you go, the slower time goes because of dilation. And I'm not going to get into what dilation means, but go read the paper. 1908, I believe. Might have been 12. if you're traveling at the speed of light, there is no time. And the fact is the original particle that ever existed was traveling immediately at its existence, at its inception, at the speed of light. Therefore, if Einstein's right, that particle never moved. There is no time from the respect of the original particle. And any idea of that particle having moved is strictly the observation of the thing that brought it into existence to begin with. And that observation causes all kinds of things that we know from the Copenhagen interpretation, where it splits based on all these ideas. And so ultimately, the paper where Einstein describes that the totality of phenomena has already occurred is his paper on general relativity, and it's available for free anywhere. Not everything is a photon. Nothing is a photon. There was no photon. That's the point. There was no photon. Never happened. If the fact of the matter is that all energy is actually moving at the speed of light, and we just don't see that because we're zoomed out. And so we're seeing the gravitational heavy version of that. But then we say, no, wait a minute, we can go down to the string level, or the loop level, or the M-brain level, or whatever, you know. I love brains. That's a joke for the physicists in the room, not for zombies. But you get the idea. But the point, though, is this idea that a photon is an energy particle that is born from the fact that there is an excess of energy during a flip, and it gets knocked off because that excess energy, due to the conservation of energy, can't stay in where it is, but it can't disappear. It has to go somewhere, and so it gets shot off in a direction that is perpendicular to the spin, and it's predictable. We have multiple times in a laboratory environment witnessed it, like, directly. That does occur. And so a photon is, you're correct, is a product of observation. Observation forces the particle to pick a spin. Particle, most of the time. Depends. And the energy of that particle is directly related to the angle of where you thought it was compared to where it is at the end. Now, the interesting part about that is that where you thought it was is an arbitrary thing. So the energy is arbitrary. Wrap your head around that. Meaning, if I think that it's north-south and it's south-north, that's the extreme. That's the most energy that photon can have when it shoots out, when that flip takes place. But now if it's here, and instead of at the pole, it's about here, there's less energy. It doesn't have as much to go, and that particle is smaller. But the fact is where I thought it was is up to me. However, experiments have shown, based on where I think that particle is compared to where it winds up when I observe it, determines A, the probability that a photon will exist at all, and B, the power of that photon. The amount of energy in the photon, rather. And so, but none of that matters without observation. But for the particle to have existed to begin with, observation must have taken place, so there has to have been an original observer. And who was that but the creator of it to begin with? You, when you spoke it into existence. And the moment it existed, it just annihilated. And all we're looking at is the space in between. It never moved because it can't, because it was already moving at the speed of light. It was still and complete at its inception. And all we are is in the middle of it, kind of seeing that thing take place, because we're the opposite. If God is breathing into the balloon and we're the balloon, God is seeing this as a totality, a beginning and end, done, and we're seeing it as playing out. But that doesn't mean that the two can't coexist. In fact, it is coexisting, right? Let's catch up on the chat. I see. Okay, I think I heard something like that one. Maybe. It's hard to understand, but at the same time, it's so simple, kind of like well, that's the point. And, you know, and it's partially my fault in the way that I'm presenting it, but it's also in the idea that when you're looking at concepts as big as this, it can only be spoken using small language. Love. Breath. Knowing. You can't use complicated language to speak about small things. Or big things, rather. You can only talk about small things using complicated language. And so the idea here is that you can't speak to the truth using word. You can't describe infinite using finite language. So we can only point to infinite. Infinite can't be drawn, but it can be perceived, conceived. It's a concept. And that concept is the same as the concept of one. Is this one? It's one nickel. It's one wooden nickel. But it's a collection of 1 trillion particles. It's also a two-sided object. It's also a lot of other things, right? It's also not a nickel. But at the end of the day, you get the gist. What it is what I decided it is while I'm looking at it. But so, as far as though what we're talking about here with respect to this difference between how you describe something small, like what I ate for breakfast, compared to something huge like why am I here and who am I really, the language is necessary. Because you can't speak to something infinite, so you can only point to it and try to elicit that response. Confucius taught in that same way. He taught it in a way that you came to the conclusion on your own, rather than being told. Because if I tell you the truth, it makes no sense. You were born at the beginning of time, you live at the end. You're an infinite point of reception. Like, that sounds like New Age hokey nonsense. But try asking a particle physicist what consciousness is. So, because they have no answer. Ask a chemist, they have no answer. We're getting a little bit closer in neuroscience, but still, that's not. They're looking at it from the perspective of the chemical reactions and brain droppings. You know? What it is what I decided it is while I'm looking at it. Is a function of an individual's brain or mind, but it is only proof that individuals have individual minds. Humans have individual brains. Yes. And we each have our own little set of facts that fill that brain, that provides the vocabulary by which we interrogate our universe. However, the archetypes behind those thoughts are identical to us all. Conceptually, the thoughts are all the same. Our understanding of those concepts is unique to each brain. So that's true. There is one mind, multiple brains. That brain/mind is a lie, is a fallacy. Brain and mind are different. The brain is a bag of meat that contains neurons that fire, and it's basically a decision engine and various other chemical processes and so forth. The mind is the I mean, be careful. The thing that's hard to define, right? Is it an emergent phenomenon based on the brain? It seems like it might be emergent. I mean, we can knock people out with a pill and cut into their bodies, and they'll wake up and have no recollection. Anyone who's had surgery knows that. Well, no, that depends. False if the idea is that mind is strictly the bag of meat in between your ears. If you're just talking about the brain, then clearly there's no mind. Because what is a brain? It's a pile of glass. It's particles that we call a mind, right? But it's not actually that. And it won't be that. It wasn't that before you were born, and it won't be that after you're gone. And in the meantime, all those particles that are in your brain that make up your brain right now will still exist in the form of some other thing, right? And so the idea with respect to the thing that you think that you are, compared to what you really are, those particles were born at the beginning of the Big Bang that make up your body right now, right? Can we agree on that? And when you die and you decay and the Earth gets sucked into the nova of the red giant that the sun will become, it's going to get burst out into the space and become other stuff and wind up across the universe in different directions. You are particles. You will not have existed anymore. And so the thing that you are is strictly a state, a transient state of those particles that are collected and being animated by a thing called awareness or consciousness that you identify with as Emma. But none of that is real. Okay, so if your definition is brain plus consciousness equals mind, then I would say that the only thing that's real is consciousness. And the difference between the rock and the human is the level of awareness of that consciousness. That's it. The difference between us and the rock is our level of awareness. All right, good. Then you understand what I'm trying to do here. Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that, Kelly, and thank you for participating in the stream. That means a lot. Yeah, well, I'll admit this too, Emma. It's a little late. I'm kind of tired, and so I'm running on straight up just channeled, like I'm just stream of consciousness. But you get the idea. It's a matter of getting the information out. But the gist here is understanding is a very personal, intimate experience, and there are things that cannot be taught. Like I can teach you 1 + 1 = 2, and I can teach you, certain specific facts that you can then utilize and bring to your world, and like the Pythagorean theorem and other stuff that's actually useful. But there's other things that can't be taught, that can only be learned. And so we need to point to this information with signs, with certain language patterns, with certain ideas, with the hope that you come to the conclusion on your own. And there's certain techniques that are better at it than others. In fact, I'm pretty good at it. And on a one-on-one level, I'm very good at it. And I've tried to develop tools to actually elicit that experience. Okay? I think that mushrooms need to be taken seriously and carefully. You know what I would say this person needs, Emma? You need to look up, and actually I'll find you the video too. My opinion on that same thing here is Alan Watts. Alan Watts is somebody who was able to synthesize the Eastern Zen Buddhist concepts into a Western language that's very palatable. So just look up Alan Watts. I don't care what comes up. Click on the first video and start listening. Yeah. But that said, he's great too. I appreciate that. I try. I don't know. That's the goal. If I'm not doing that is when it's time to pack it in. But so, at the end of the day, though, don't expect Emma to understand any of this upon first hearing or second. You have to let it kind of process, and things will come to you on your own. Pieces will start to come together. And there's I'm working through it now because I kind of jumped into this head first, and so it's putting the stream together, the content, all of the stuff. Has taken up a lot of time in the beginning, but now that a lot of it's done now, where the I Ching stuff is ready, the tarot stuff is ready, I'm going to get to the Goetic stuff tomorrow already, the numerology stuff ready, and so it's slowly getting together. But the goal here is to actually develop a program where people can come in and we'll do this together as a group. Finally, too, Emma, there's a video I put up called "This Will Wake You Up." Period. It's not under my live streams. I cut it out of a live stream and stuck it as a separate video. Just give that a watch. You might be surprised. That might have some stuff in there that puts puzzle pieces together for you. Because it's designed to do exactly that, to try to elicit the response of you coming to the one truth. I don't know. That's kind of the point. Well, here's the cool part too. Right, yeah, well, yeah, that's good, because you can understand it. It's unattainable. And as far as clarification is concerned, there are some things, I would say, again, Alan Watts would be really good. I'm not familiar with some of the other names, but I think that you may want to give them a look. I will say that there's a few people here that I truly trust with respect to the sources of their information. Like, it's, but that said, I have to explore it on your own and kind of see what feels good to you. I'll leave you with this, because I am going to go now. I shall read to you from Kybalion. Kybalion is great. The Emerald Tablet of Hermes is very poetic. That all we are is the observer. That's all any of us are. Okay. I'm not a seeker of New Age knowledge either. Okay, so the Emerald Tablet is very poetic, but the Kybalion is more specific to modern language. That's actually the all in all. Here's an example of one of the questions. While all is in the all, it is equally true that the all is in the all. To him who truly understands this truth hath come great knowledge. How often have the majority of people heard repeatedly the statement that their deity was all in all, and how little they have suspected their inner occult truth concealed by these carelessly uttered words. The commonly used expression is a survival of the ancient Hermetic maxim, as the Kybalion says, to him who truly understands this truth hath come great knowledge. And this being so, let us seek this truth, the understanding of which means so much. In this statement of truth, the Hermetic maxim, is concealed one of the greatest philosophical, scientific, and religious truths. What he's saying is that everything is in the one thing, and the one thing is in everything. The universe is holographic. It is a hologram. Every particle contains the totality of existence, and existence contains all particles. And they are both occurrences at the same time since the beginning of time, and that has never changed. Due to the fact that we are in one side of that, which happens to be the temporal side, we see it through time and think that we're separate from it, and that it's emergent and will end and has a beginning, and rightfully so. We have finite brains, and so we perceive the world through finite lenses. Well, the term New Age, too, it keeps going up and down and left and right and means a lot of different things, but they're just words. And it's the meaning behind it that matters more than that. And words change meaning so much that we don't understand. We have no concept of where these words came from. We just know what they mean and we use them. But the fact of the matter is that language is part of the problem. Because the fact of the matter is that if every little particle in the universe is also a holographic representation of the one thing, words are the same. All words, sounds, phrases are simply just different probabilities of the one. And so there really is only one word. And here's a really, really good thing to do if you're kind of looking for clarification, is ask for it. Pray. And don't pray for answers. You already have those. That's why you are where you are. You know what's funny too, Emma, about your last statement there? I'm not a seeker of New Age knowledge, I'm just an observer. It's beautiful because you just proved my point by calling yourself an observer, which I love. Because that's what we are. But we're also the speaker. But more important than that, forget the words New Age knowledge. You are a seeker. We all are. We seek understanding. You seek clarification. There's a person in my church, I'm very close to him. We sing together in the choir. Older guy. He's an atheist. He says, I don't believe in God, I just like to sing. Bullshit, buddy. Bullshit. You're here because you're looking for truth. You're here because you feel a connection with the people. And because regardless of the words, it's all misunderstood. Walked on water. No, he didn't. Parted the seas. No, he didn't. Like, come on. So let's get to the core of what we're actually talking about here. We're talking about a doctrine that's told through story and allegory and metaphor, because that's the only way you could speak to infinite subjects. Christ taught a different message to the disciples than he did to the masses. He taught the one truth. Kabbalah tells the same story, just from the respect of our soul, and us being a Kli and so forth, and the idea of reception and bestowal and the different ratios going back up the tree. It's all just language to try to elicit an understanding of that we are the receiver and the giver at the same time. And so it's really cute. Like, oh, I'm not Christian. I don't believe in God. It's funny too. I'm not Christian either. I mean, I am from the respect of understanding the idea of who Christ was. He was a magus of the highest order that taught the truth to those who had the ears to hear, and to those who didn't, he told stories about fish and camels, and and pissed off some rabbis. Which, I don't know. You haven't lived till you've pissed off a rabbi. Sorry. I love you. Yeah, you. No, you. Why is it so hard to believe? Why, because we don't know each other? Because I'm a stranger on the internet? I am not a stranger on the internet. You know exactly who I am. You created me so that you could hear these words. The least you can do is take them in, process them later. The video will be up. You can go back to it. I need a random book to end the evening. How about Eckhart Tolle? Since we're on this subject, might as well. Practicing the Power of Now. Oh, I have a bookmark. Let's go back toward the beginning here for Emma, because he starts off with very basic concepts of kind of what we're talking about here. And so let's see here. There you go. Emma, I hope you're still here. And if not, this is for me and everyone else. Realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. Whereas before you dwelt in time and paid brief visits to the now, have your dwelling place in the now and pay brief visits to the past and future when required to deal with the practical aspects of your life. Always say yes to the present moment. No, I created Michael through observing myself. Right. End the delusion of time. Here's the key. End the delusion of time. Time and mind are inseparable. Remove time from the mind and it stops, unless you choose to use it. To be identified with your mind is to be trapped in time. The compulsion to live almost exclusively through memory and anticipation, the past and the future. This creates an endless preoccupation with past and future and an unwillingness to honor and acknowledge the present moment and allow it to be. The compulsion arises because the past gives you an identity, which is bullshit and does not exist, and we create it every moment. And the future holds the promise of salvation, which implies that we need to be saved from something, of fulfillment in whatever form. Both are illusions. The more you're focused on time, past and future, the more you miss the now, the most precious thing that there is. The only thing that there is. Viewers did not create Michael. No. Nobody created Michael. Nobody created Michael. Michael is a word. Means who is like God. Here's the esteemed one. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. So that said, though, that was a lot of fun. I appreciate that. And again, I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. All I'm trying to do, compulsion-wise, internally, is to try to find as many ways as I can to tell this story and to tell it as many times as I can to as many people as I can for as long as I can. To wake up as many people as I can until I can't anymore. And that's the only reason I'm doing this. And whatever comes in between that, awesome. And so, there you have it. There was a few things I planned on speaking about tonight, but thankfully the conversation became a conversation. And I'll take that. This is the wrong book. This is the wrong book. Some of these are good, though. When you consider the idea of 3 random words from 3 separate individuals and writing something, there's no way to predict. And so, you know, your mind is forced to go to places you wouldn't consider. That's some good stuff. Why does the mind's compulsion to seek freedom always lead to the action of the ego binding oneself? Why does the mind's compulsion to seek freedom always lead to the action of the ego binding oneself? Wow. Good question, Michael. 10 years ago, Michael. I don't know if there's any other good wisdom in here. Love is not of the mind. It is of the source of mind, the part of you that's aware that it's aware. Love is not an emotion, but rather it's what's left when emotion is quieted. Suffering is the outcome of the disharmony between the heart drawing inspiration from truth and the ego drawing satisfaction from lies. Yeah. There are no answers. The sooner you let go of the compulsion to know and just be, the sooner you'll find truth. Or clarify your question. Clarifying questions just leads to more questions. It's true. Which is okay, because that's what we're here to do. The minute you stop wanting, you start dying. Yeah. So I guess tomorrow we'll talk about the houses. Like, there's a few times I wanted to kind of go over the idea of the astrological houses from a slightly different respect, and I guess we can cover that tomorrow. It's an interesting subject. It's a fun vocabulary for looking at the different combinations of signs and planets. But there's a different kind of system I wanted to bring into it that I thought was interesting and unique when I looked at it. And so I thought it'd be fun to share. And so we'll look at that as well. And also, just for the heck of it, because why not, I thought it'd be fun to pop up and take a look at Crowley's chart. Since his birthday recently passed. And, I tried to put together a nice little stream for his birthday, and technically it was a problem. Everything didn't go well. So I'm going to have to continue to, think about how I want to present that and to do that correctly. Otherwise, that was a great way to end the night, and I really appreciate it. And Emma, please do me a favor. I know that you're not seeking knowledge in the New Age, and that you're just an observer, and I appreciate you observing. I mean it. I mean it. I mean it. I mean it. I don't want to preach to the choir. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to plant seeds. So, thank you for making it a great night. And thank you to everybody else. I'll speak to everybody soon. Right. Bree, I'm sure we'll talk in minutes. right? Missy, same thing. If you're still awake, go to sleep. It's late. Actually, it's early for you guys. I'm East Coast. It's almost 5 a.m. 4:30. Shushu, Wendy, I'll be speaking to you in a couple days. I miss your face, man. And otherwise, thank you so much for everyone else who joined the stream tonight and participated. Thank you so much. Kitten, thank you. You texted me earlier. Did you? Okay. Well, then I will look for that. I'm sorry if I didn't respond. Today was a little nuts. I had a ton of stuff, and I had a bunch of technical issues. I was actually doing stuff until the moment I clicked the button because I got hung up on things outside of this that kind of got in the way. And it was like, again, it was like Mercury retrograde kind of stuff breaking for no reason. And it was stuff that used to work. But you too, Kitten. Thank you. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Katie. Luana, if you're here, I love you. And anybody else, Lauren, if you're still here, I'm sorry about your legal stuff. Like, reach out and we'll talk. I want to see your face. We have to do something, like either do a Zoom call or we need to jump back on Omegle, and I'll put in. We'll discuss a tag so we can get each other, and we can do that. Thank you, Shushu, my brother. I love you, man. All right, so anyway, have a good night, and everyone remember. Try to put this in your memories so that you can recall it when you need it. Okay, there it is. Just gorgeous, okay? There it is, the most powerful magic that exists. The words being spoken, I love you. The magic only works if you realize the truth. Is that you're the one speaking. This is you saying I love you to yourself. No, shut up and hear it. I'll see you tomorrow. None of this ever happened.